took the second a little bit too slowly for Brooks's liking. He looks most miffed. Round the wicket again goes Walker, and Garrett is driving. This one he has got away into the gap. It should be 2. Will they go for 3 this time? Yes, Brooks indicates that is definitely going to happen, and Garrett has to just get a little bit of a shuffle on to make that 2 into 3, but he does so comfortably enough, actually.
Brooks was miles home.
Yeah.
He'd always have been there. Garrett, on the other hand, a slightly better throw and more backing up, was, shall we say, lumbering for the last couple of steps of that third run.
Walker back over the wicket to the right-handed Brooks, who's down the wicket, and he's bowled him. May have just held it back a bit, may have just been the Yorker. Either way, Brooks missed it, went for the pull on the full, basically. Missed it, went underneath his bat into the stumps. And Brooks' brief, bright innings ends in vain, alas, for Ethan Brooks. He goes bowled Walker for 18. And the score is 187 for 9. The end is coming quickly.
Yeah, I don't know whether he got a little touch onto that, just to play it down. He certainly took a couple of strides down the wicket. I see it now. Oh no, the live stream was just following the bowler running in. Didn't see the ball hitting the stumps. Bales went flying and Ethan Brooks went walking, and Ollie Hannon-Dalby coming out to the crease. And in the words of a famous former England player, coach and commentator, start the car. He did have one game earlier this season, Ollie Hannon-Dalby, where he miraculously lasted for an awful long time. County Championship game. I don't think he'll be too fussed about trying to hang around. And Hendricks, he will come on for his 7th over. 2 for 34. 14 overs to go. 1 wicket required for Leicestershire to wrap things up. Hendricks left arm over, slapped away by Garrett, who will push hard, but ball has beaten the fielder and gone over for a 4. In that stage of the game, I can see 1 or 2 heading to the car park already. Not going to worry themselves about waiting for the final wicket to fall. Beat the rush. Van might start selling at half price. Hendricks is in to the crease, straight, whipped off the pads by Garrett. He wants to come back for a second, and he did well to get there. Hannon-Dalby looks like a man who got through a hard 10 overs in the blistering heat of the day earlier on. It was quite a stiff turn. And trot back. 193 for 9. Garrett moves to 11 from 7. Hendricks turns at the top of his mark, pumps the legs, and he gets towards the crease. Straight, defended by Garrett out into the offside for no run. Quite a few Leicester City shirts I've seen around. One young man walking across the Uptonsteel stand. Clearing up at the Geary bar. Hendricks turning. 3 deliveries to come of this over. Towards the crease, the left armour. A little bit shorter and wider this time, and Garrett away, but can only pick out the man on the boundary. And Ollie Hannon-Dalby has 2 deliveries to face of this over. He's taking his guard. conversation between Hill and Hendricks. And Dalby sets himself ready. In comes Hendricks. An ultimate ball of the over. It's full, and Anand Dalby just shows him the face of the bat, plays the ball straight back to him. Turns and walks away a couple of steps, plays a couple of full strokes. Like he hurt his hand or his wrist bowling earlier on as well today, so it'll be interesting how hard he goes at the ball if he gets the chance. Hendricks' final ball of his over, of the 37th of the Warwickshire innings, was full and dug out by Anand Dalby into the offside for no run. The 194 for 9 at the end of 37. Just for comparison, not that it means a huge amount right now, Leicestershire were 218 for 5 at the same stage. DLS has stopped giving a half score now we've got to this stage. I think this should be 322. There you go, 322 would have been for DLS. Walker to continue. Round the wicket at Garrett, who played it away nicely on the offside, cut it away through gully. Fielder down there just did enough to take the sting off it, Rishi Patel. That meant they only got back for 2. Good sharp running by Garrett, who I think is going to want to farm as much of the strike as possible. Put himself in a handy position to make his place in the team worthwhile. Craig Miles, mentioned earlier, late call up to the 100, is available for 5 games in the 100 because Matthew Potts away with England for the Northern Superchargers. And he will take strike again. In comes Walker, round the wicket, just waited for it to come to him, guided it towards Patel, no run. Not that he would try and sneak through for one at this stage anyway. Ollie Anand Dalby's owing the umpire check his bat. Feels like psychologically if Warwickshire can just get to 200 at the very least. In comes Walker, that was Fuller, well dug out by Garrett. We'll go down to wide third man, which was Louis Kimber. And Dalby, I think, wants to change his bat, having faced 2 deliveries. Not happy with something, and now he's on strike. He's looking towards the bench. Say, where are my spares?
You don't often see that, do you? The bat actually having to be changed. It hasn't perhaps passed its test. What's going? I don't think I've ever seen that before. It didn't go through the gauge.
Yeah.
Are they?
Doesn't have any branding.
No, I was going to say it looks like he's carved it himself out of a convenient piece of willow. So perhaps that's why.
He's just picked something up around the back of the dressing room.
Used a plane or something just to shave off. He's going to have to shave a little bit off that other one anyway.
He should sell sponsorship, shouldn't he? He's not going to have a maker's name on there. Put some ink on it. In comes Walker once more. And Dalby trying to get there. It's going to be a wide. It was a rather tired effort at a pull shot. Go through it, practicing it a couple more times. 198 for 9. Halfway through the 38th over. Walker Comes in again, round the wicket to the big left-hander. He feathered towards the ball. And Delby didn't get anywhere near it. Two deliveries to come. Shadows getting ever longer. In comes Walker. That's not a bad shot for none in the end. I think it might be a no ball. Hannon Dalby didn't use a lot of footwork, but make a nice connection with the ball. Might have a free hit. So look out, everybody. Ollie Hannon Dalby might just have a swing. Walker coming in. Round the wicket again. He did, and he had a good swing. It went high in the air. It'll pick out the fielder. There's ironic cheers. He'll come back for the second. I don't think too many people spotted that it was a free hit. So he took advantage, Hannon Dalby. Not the greatest of hook/pulls that you've ever seen, but knew he couldn't be out, so just popped it up in the air and got himself a 2 and got himself off the mark. Might have been some of the ironic cheers for that as well. As in comes Walker again, this time played nicely off the pads by Hannon Dalby, and it'll be fielded in the deep fine leg by Hendricks. Brought up the 200 as well, 203 for 9 at the end of 38. I say it might only be slim consolation, but it's consolation nonetheless.
Two batsmen punch gloves. Lewis Hill hands Bjorn Hendricks' cap to umpire Longley. Hendricks looking for a 3rd wicket, which would give him 12 in the competition to date and make him, I would suspect, close to being top wicket taker. Runs in, bowls over the wicket to Ollie Hannon Dalby, who leans forward and strokes the ball off a sort of thickish inside edge down towards straight-ish mid-wicket, where Louis Kimber is the fielder. 136 more needed, but I think that's fairly academic now. You never know. Rate required 11.5, still 11.5 overs to go, but just that 1 wicket in hand. It would be a very famous win for Warwickshire to pull it off from here. In goes Hendricks, bowls, and Hannon Dalby clips it nicely off his legs down towards long leg, who throws in. It's just 1, but as he thinks about turning for a second, Hannon Dalby, in sort of classic number 11 style, manages to sort of drop his bat, and it all looks a bit sort of, as cricketers sometimes a little disparagingly say, village.
I was driving home yesterday when Manchester United were 4-0 down at Brentford, and bookmaker came on the radio and offered the odds for a Manchester United win. I'd suggest they're relatively similar for a Warwickshire win here.
In goes Hendricks and bowls, seams back in. Possible run out. Hannon Dalby turns with the speed of a large oil tanker, manages to sort of get back into his ground, but the throw from Hendricks still came to a halt basically there. The throw, Hendricks is unable to take it, needed to hit there from Patel. He hadn't gone that far, but as I say, turning circle is a big one.
It almost was as if Ollie Hannon Dalby was saying, please run me out or we can end this.
Hard to get those long legs going again. Hendricks is in to Garrett, who's chipping it in the air, should be caught at mid-on, isn't caught at mid-on. Walker didn't actually, I'm not sure he actually got there, and again there's almost a run out as Garrett calls for the second. Walker cross with himself, brushes the dust and dirt off his elbows. He seemed to see it a fraction late, ran to his left from mid-on, tried to get 2 hands underneath it, dived to his left, may just have brushed his fingers, may have gone through them. Either way, he couldn't hang on. So the game goes on. Garrett on to 17. Hendricks is in, bowls to him. He plays it straight back down the pitch to Bjorn Hendricks. Makes as though to flick the ball at the stumps. Doesn't bother doing so. Hannon Dorby reaches his bat back into his ground. Did he actually say what the odds were, that bookmaker, when he came on that time?
I think they were
5,000, something like that.
not
500.
quite, yeah. Not quite in the realms of Leicester City winning the Premier League.
No, 5,000 to 1. Famously, Hendricks bowls a bouncer that is pulled by Garrett and pulled very effectively out to deep mid-wicket, where Lilly puts in the slide. There's a thought of a second, but you heard the no-no from Garrett because he realised it was the last ball of the over, I suspect, and he is intent on keeping the strike. 207 for 9 off 39, 11 remain, 132 needed from those 11 at 12 runs and over.
So those situations there where you get the old win viz that comes up on screen, and these matches are on telly. Chris Wright is back on. Bowled very well today. Very well indeed. Couple of key wickets. Dom Sibley at the top. Grinal Pandya coming back on. 2 for 29 from 8 overs. And he comes from the Bennett end. And it's well played by Garrett. Defended it relatively late. Easy pickup in the end for Mulder. In the 40th over, Ollie Hannon-Darby's still talking to the umpire about his bat. Maybe the umpire's saying, why haven't you got a sponsored one? In comes Wright. Oh, that's gone high in the air. Game could be over here. And it is. Comfortably taken by Scriven. Warwickshire 207 all out. It's a resounding victory for Leicestershire.
Fourth in 5 games for the Foxes, and I'd suggest possibly their most important, in that Warwickshire came into the game unbeaten in the competition so far. So the Foxes putting themselves into a very decent position in terms of qualification for the knockout stages. They now head down to Bristol on Wednesday to take on Gloucestershire, whereas the Bears, Mikey, have a game on against...
They are on Wednesday against Notts at Edgbaston, then Middlesex at Radlett on Friday, and Durham at Edgbaston on Sunday, and they finish this competition against Somerset at Edgbaston on Tuesday 23rd. I say finish because they'll still hope that there will be a quarter-final or so to come, though looking at the table, Leicestershire much better placed.
They win by 131 runs, the Foxes. And we will now go and get our interviews, and no doubt you'll hear them being played on various local radio stations over the next day or two. But I hope you've enjoyed our coverage here from the Uptonsteel County Ground. But for now, from myself, Richard Ray of BBC Radio Leicester, and from Mikey Burrows of BBC WM and BBC CWR, it's a very good evening to you all.